What is up, merbabes? It's your girl, Aaliyah, today. Welcome back to my channel for yet another YouTube video. What it do? How are you? As you all know by the title of this video, it is time again for Serial Killer Saturdays. So the lovely lady, or not so lovely lady, that we are going to be talking about today is Kristen Gilbert. She was something else. I'm going to go ahead and give a trigger warning. There's going to be mentions of suicide, fake suicide attempts, and there's going to be mentions of somebody killing people using epinephrine. So, trigger warning for those of you who don't like this type of stuff, but if you like true crime and all that type of stuff, go ahead and grab your makeup brushes, grab a snack, and let's go ahead and get started. So, Kristen Heather Gilbert was born Kristen Heather Strickland on November 13th, 1967 in Fall River, Massachusetts. She was the oldest of two daughters. Her father was Richard, and he was an electronics executive, and her mother, Claudia, was a homemaker and a part-time teacher. Kristen was an exceptionally smart child. So she was really, really smart when she was younger. And she even went on to graduate from high school at the age of 16. But don't let the good student facade fool you, because according to friends and family, she ended up becoming quite the troubled and twisted individual as she got older. So as I was saying, Miss Gilbert, as she entered her teenage years, her friends and family began to notice that she was becoming quite the habitual liar, and that she was known for faking suicide attempts to manipulate people around her. And according to the court reports, she had a bit of a history of making violent threats towards people. As I mentioned before, she graduated high school at the age of 16 and then went on to attend Bridgewater State College. But her being there did not last very long, because she faked a suicide attempt. And after that fake suicide attempt, she was ordered to seek psychiatric treatment. And because of that, she left Bridgewater and transferred to Mount Wachusett Community College in 1987, and then went on and transferred to another community college, which was Greenfield Community College. She graduated from there with her nursing degree, and later on that same year met and married Glenn Gilbert. So she graduated from high school in 1986 and transferred from Bridgewater to the first community college in 1987. And then 1988 is when she graduated and met and married Glenn Gilbert. So in 1989, she joined the staff of the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Northampton. And then in 1990, she was featured in the magazine VA Practitioner. So she went on to be a very distinguished nurse. So like being featured in the magazine and everything like that, she went on to be very distinguished. But of course, with all of these stories, things end up taking a turn for the worst, and the person is not who they seem to be. Later on down the line, a lot of nurses began to notice that a lot of the patients under Gilbert were passing away, and she had a lot of deaths under her belt. And so a lot of the nurses decided to give her the nickname, the Angel of Death. What a lovely name. Could you imagine working with a nurse and you find out that all of these patients are dying under her care? Because I know I'm friends with a lot of nurses out there, and especially with all this is going on with COVID and everything like that, I know all of y'all get a lot of praise. This heifer does not. No. If she was doing this shit now, no. Ixnay. Well, all of my friends who are nurses, first of all, y'all do not get enough praise and recognition for all that y'all are going through. But second of all, if I was a nurse working with somebody like her, and I find out that a lot of the other nurses are jokingly calling her the angel of death because of all of these veterans that are dying in her care and dying from cardiac arrest. Sus. So 3 nurses thought it was quite sus about what was going on. But what they thought particularly was sus was that there was an increase in cardiac arrest deaths and a decrease in their supply of epinephrine. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, my good sis Kristen, she ended up being switched to night shift while during her time at the hospital, and she began a flirtatious relationship with an Army veteran and a night security officer named James Perrault, and this flirtation would swiftly turn into a full-blown affair. So not only is she in the hospital killing folks, but she's also sleeping around. Whew, she makes Nurse Ratched look like a saint. Thankfully, the three nurses who noticed the increase in cardiac deaths and the decrease of epinephrine quickly reported it, and an investigation went underway. But our friend Kristen was ahead of them and left the hospital amid the investigation that was going on. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and cut these creases and then we'll be back. Okay. Back. Do not judge my cut creases. My cut creases are never the same. So, moving on. Miss Kristen, girl. She left in 1996 amid the investigation of all of the deaths and such that were going on. And she checked herself into the psychiatric hospital that fall about 7 times, and she stayed probably between 1 to 10 days each time she stayed in the psychiatric hospital. So not only did she do that, but then she ended up going on trial in 1998 for making a bomb threat against the workers in the hospital and her former little fling that she had, the security guard. She made a bomb threat towards them and other people who took part in the investigation about all of the strange deaths that were occurring at the hospital. And as I said before, co-workers mentioned in the court records that she would make violent threats against them constantly while working at the hospital. Sis was crazy. And in 1998, she was convicted of that crime of making the bomb threat. Staff members speculate that she was responsible for approximately 80 or more deaths in the hospital and probably over 300 medical emergencies. This chick is wild. Now, if you're wondering exactly how she got caught, so before she made the bomb threat and all that, remember how I told you that the nurses reported that they were noticing some epinephrine and the epinephrine missing in the deaths? So what ultimately led to that report is a 66-year-old veteran came into the hospital. He was just admitted to the hospital for a post-operative bowel obstruction, and he only required medication. But, as you suspect, Miss Kristen had some other plans up her sleeve. And what Miss Kristen decided to do is she decided to walk her happy behind into his room. A nurse saw her do this. A nurse witnessed her walking into his room with a syringe in her hand. And later that night, that poor 66-year-old veteran died. Can't. And her police records were just not it when she went on trial for these murders. So police records stated that she used a knife on somebody when she was in college in 1988. And then when it came to the patients, there were multiple horrific things that she just did to these poor people. Like, they're veterans. They already suffered enough, and now you're putting them through this. You're sick, lady. The prosecutors said that she tried to murder a person twice by poisoning in November of 1995, and that she tried to poison a patient at the VA hospital on January 20th, 1996, and that she caused a medical emergency by removing a patient's breathing tube in 1994. I have no words. I have no words. This woman is sick. To top it all off, she abandoned a patient that was going through cardiac arrest and asked another nurse to accompany her to go check on other patients. I'm going to go ahead and finish off the eyes and put on some concealer and stuff like that off camera, and we'll be back to discuss with the blush, highlighter, and lips about how this crazy ass woman ended up getting locked up. I can't. You know what? I'll be right back. I need a minute. I'll be right back. What it do? I'm back. Don't ask why I decided to do that. It just came to me at the last minute. Anyways, go ahead and get into wrapping up this psycho ass lady. So some of her victims, like some of her known victims, were the 66-year-old man who came in that she killed, a 35-year-old Henry Houghton, Kenneth Cutting was 41, and Edward Squira, Skwira. I'll list the names down below. Forgive me for butchering them, but he was 69 years old. And they were all hospitalized veterans. And those are 4 of her known victims from the Veterans Hospital. And according to her police reports, not only did she harm veterans, so before the VAMC crimes, when she was working as a home aide, she purposely scalded a mentally handicapped child with hot bath water. As I said, she's nuts. So on March 14th, 2001, a federal jury convicted her on 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree murder, and 2 counts of attempted murder. So I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all like, okay, so she got first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and attempted murder. So that means she's getting the death penalty, right? Right? Wrong. So even though Massachusetts does not have corporal punishment, her crimes were committed on federal property. So her crimes were suitable for the death penalty. And the courts tried to seek the death penalty for her, but unfortunately that did not happen. Now, I know the whole topic of the death penalty is a touchy subject. That's the topic for another day. Me personally, I am personally for it. If the punishment should fit the crime. That's my personal opinion on it. So if you've done something that's as heinous as this, I mean, bye, peace out. But as I said, that's a discussion for another day. We're not going to get into that. So as I was saying, they really wanted Sis to get the death penalty. And they fought hard to get her the death penalty by even bringing up the conviction of her and the bomb threat. But they ended up ruling against it because they brought up the factor of the well-being of her 2 children. Yeah. Psycho Heifer had 2 sons, so since they were thinking of the well-being of her 2 sons, they decided to not go for the death penalty. Yeah, I know some of y'all are probably thinking, what? Like, I understand her sons, but really? I mean, honestly, it is what it is at this point, because I personally feel she should have got the death penalty, but then again, we do have to think of the well-being of her 2 kids, because, I mean, no kid wants to have to deal with the fact that their parent had to be put to death. I mean, they already have to live with the fact that their parent is a murderer, but now they have to go ahead and they have to get prepared for their parent to be killed. On March 26, 2001, the jury recommended that the sentence be commuted to life imprisonment, and on March 27, 2001, the judge ruled that she be sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences plus 20 years without the possibility of parole. She was then transferred from the women's prison in Massachusetts to a special facility in Texas, where she is currently serving her sentence to this day. And in July of 2003, she dropped her appeal to try and get her life sentence dropped because the courts there were going to try and pursue the death penalty. Smart girl. And that, my dear merbabes, is the end of the story of the horrible Kristen Heather Gilbert and her horrible crimes that she committed against these poor veterans. Jesus. So y'all, tell me what you think down below in the comments of this heifer, because frankly, honestly, as I said before, I personally feel that she should have gotten the death penalty, but that's neither here nor there. But I will say this much. She was very smart for dropping that appeal, because she couldn't get the death penalty in Massachusetts because A, they don't have corporal punishment, and B, they were thinking of the welfare of her children. And she thought she would be slick and go to Texas and think that she could get that dropped, get her life sentence dropped. But surprise, surprise, they were going to execute your behind. So wise decision, sis. Alrighty, guys, that about wraps it up for episode 2 of Serial Killer Saturdays. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, I want to give a shout out to Bailey Sarian, because she is the one who inspired me to do a video like this. And I'm hoping that I can continue to do this for more spooky seasons to come. So stay tuned. And again, like I said last Saturday, comment down below what you thought of her. Let me know your opinion on her. And also, make sure you share your ideas of what female serial killer we should talk about next Saturday. But until then, stay safe, stay spooky. Bye.